So one thing that I found that's been like really positive about COVID,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, it's really simplified life from the standpoint of not needing to really think about what you're going to do because, of course, I'm going to stay home.
Yeah.
So that's just been like so positive. The downside to it has been that I just forget to take breaks.
Because you're just nonstop working.
Yeah, exactly. I just kind of like I've got my like home office set up and I just start cranking through things. And then you know how it is. Like once you start something and you spend 2 minutes doing something,
Yeah.
that's mostly the hardest part, at least for me.
Yeah.
Is taking that 2 minutes to get started. But then once you do, you get like so into it and then you don't stop. And so I think the plus side has been that you don't have to think because you're kind of stuck home.
Uh-huh.
And then you get a lot of stuff done, but the downside is like you forget to take breaks. I just realized I still haven't eaten anything today, and so I should probably do that later. But I should probably go at least grab something with 50 calories in it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And it's like that every day.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I understand. The interesting thing about this phenomenon and challenge that you're describing is it's only the case with two kinds of people. You either have to be super highly intelligent or completely crazy. Which are you?
Well, are these mutually exclusive?
And so,
If so, I'll definitely choose the intelligent part. But, I mean, the reality is that it might be a little bit of both.
I often forget to eat too. I'm actually doing I'm up to 20-hour fast every day. So almost practically one meal a day. I mean, if you call that a 4-hour window, kind of one meal. But I'm trying to get down to 22 hours. So, just eating within 2 hours because I eat really slow and it does often take me 2 hours to eat a meal.
Oh, yeah.
Just because
Wow.
I'm doing conscious eating and I'm not ever rushing. And so I just
I was
decided.
thinking about going down to the OMAD as
that's what
it's
that's
often called.
exactly.
But what made me think about it is I was cooking and I think that, I've always had trouble like gaining weight. Like gaining weight has never been a problem for me. I had like gained all this weight from COVID, and I was listening to Peter Audia, and
so
he was
good.
talking about this as well because it just made things so much easier for him. He didn't have to think about things.
Mhm.
He didn't have to plan out each meal and figure out how much he was eating.
Mhm.
So it's like that's a really great idea. But I just threw in a green smoothie because that was my way of further simplifying it. Because I realized that if I could get all of my like vegetable and fruit servings in a day
Yeah.
in that green smoothie,
Uh-huh.
then I could eat more or less whatever I wanted for dinner, and I
Yeah.
would achieve my weight goals, but I would still have the vegetables in there as well.
Right. I love it. So tell me why you think the weight gain when you had COVID.
When things first started, and March was a really interesting month. And what I was noticing is that March, I was like glued to the news.
Mm-hmm.
I was stress eating.
Mm-hmm.
I got my weekly report from my phone.
Sorry, I just got to interrupt right there. So
Yeah.
the first two things you listed go really well together. Listening to the news and stress eating.
Stress
Funny
eating.
how quickly and easily those two things go together.
Oh, 100%. And March honestly seemed like a year.
Yeah.
But what was funny is I was seeing other people having these same experiences with COVID, and they were like, I'm watching the news, I'm like glued to it, I'm like stress eating, I'm like glued to my phone.
Yeah.
There was 1 week where, and this is kind of like this breaking point where I realized that I was gaining weight. I was watching way too much negative news, and I got the report that you get on your iPhone about how much screen time you've had. there's one week where I like was averaging 13 hours a day. I'm like, whoa, like something's seriously wrong.
Oh.
And so I came up with this game because I'm like, what if that's a lot of time? Like, what if I even used like half of that time, 6.5 hours, to try to improve my life?
Yeah.
I was like, that'd be a lot of time.
Wow.
Like my life would be a lot better. And maybe it's not 6 hours, but like, what if I came out of this stronger? What if I came out of this whole COVID thing stronger?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And then how would I do that? Because I don't know if you felt this way, probably not. But I know that a lot of other people where you're kind of feeling paralyzed. The world's just like changing around you, and it's so uncertain, and you didn't know what was going to happen. And to a certain degree, I think the one thing was clear was that the world was going to be very different.
Yep.
But what was really unclear was in what way is it going to be different, and what extent is it going to be different.
Yep.
So nobody knew that, and like this uncertainty was just like so much stress.
That's it. Bingo. Uncertainty.
So I was just thinking about like, well, what if you just made these like little projects that you gave yourself, and you just did them every day, and they could be tiny, but you did them across some vectors that you know that if you did these every day, you would have a very, very different life. And so I came up with this personal challenge called Come Out Stronger. And the personal challenge included FGH is how I remember it. And so it's 3 Fs, 2 Gs, and 2 Hs.
Okay.
And these are tiny little things that you do every day. And they're tiny because you think you should kind of look at these. This is how I was like talking to myself. It's like you look at this list and you're like, of course I can get that done. It seems almost too small. But my thinking was focus on that completion, focus on doing it every single day. And then they would probably get bigger and bigger, and you make more and more progress as things progressed. But initially I was just thinking about it like as a way to get myself out of my funk.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
So the 3 Fs are family. And so spending 30 minutes a day with your family. As you know, I've got a partner and a daughter, but not everyone's going to have that. But it's 30 minutes undivided attention for your family. Phones off, talking to them. The next one is friends. And so these first two are all about building that social network, keeping that social network intact, because one thing that COVID did disrupt is something that's so fundamental to who we are as humans, which is having that social connection. Yeah. And so that was like one of the first things that I wanted to figure out how to establish. Secondly, so the second one's friends, and that was reach out to a friend. This doesn't have to be anything big. This can be a text to PJ. Yeah. How are you holding up? How are you in bed doing? Yeah. It can be the simplest thing. It doesn't have to be more. It can be on a Zoom call. I think the one thing that's great about this time is like everyone's at home. They're bored. Doing a Zoom call with somebody you haven't talked to for a while. Like 4 months ago would be a challenge. Like now it's easy. Yep. Because people are just dying for human connection. Yeah. So those are the 2 first Fs. The third F is fun. And this was trying to find a way every single day to have fun. Like this is also something that I think is built into humans. Is like we want to play, we want to have a good time. Yep. But I also think that sometimes what I was noticing with myself is when you get into this crisis mode, at least when I do, it can be very easy to only think about the crisis and nothing but. And you forget that you're living life. Yep. You know, that you've got all these things around. You can still have a good time. And, you can combine this. You can have fun with a friend. Play a game over Zoom. Play a game with your family. You don't have to do these things together. So that was F's. And then there are 2 G's. The first one's gratitude. So I know that there's been changes in everyone's lives, but there should still be something that is there to be thankful for. And so it is looking for these things, 3 things that you can give thanks for. And actually, there are studies on this that prove that that thing alone will make you happier, just by expressing gratitude.
Yeah.
The next one is giving. So finding a way to give. And this could be something as small as lending an ear to somebody who's having a tough time. It could be picking up some garbage off the street. Just some selfless way that you can make the world even incrementally better. And then the last one is the 2 H's. And so this is health and it's home. And so the health is finding something that's going to make you healthier that day. It could be as simple as taking a walk around the block if you didn't take a walk around the block the day before. It could be as simple as, you know what, I'm going to eat 1 serving of broccoli today. I didn't have a vegetable yesterday. This doesn't have to be big. In fact, the whole point of this is that they're not big, that they're really small.
Huge, yes. Small is huge.
Yes.
Because small, you'll do it.
Exactly. The tiniest little thing. And then just doing it every day. And then the last one is home. And so this is doing something that's going to improve your living space. So I think we're in this period now where our home has become everything to us for a lot of people. And we're spending more time in our home than ever before. And I'm sure we all have a long list of things that we've been wanting to do in our home, whether that be moving a pile of mail, getting rid of some old clothes, whatever that may be. If we stop and if we just think about this time that we have right now in our living spaces, there's never been a better time to alphabetize your spices than right now. You have the time. So, but it doesn't have to be alphabetizing your spices. It could be
I know what you mean.
Pulling 2 weeds.
Something small again.
Something really, really small. But these things compound, and it's crazy. So for a while there, I was thinking about just making my office space environment a little incrementally better every day, just because I've been spending a lot of time in this space that you see. And so, I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to dedicate a couple of weeks to just making this space a little better. I think that this is a breakthrough moment for me. What was so interesting about that is by the end of 2 weeks, I had my dream office.
You're talking about the one you're in right now?
Yeah, the one that I'm in right now. And just the reason why was I was focusing on like what are all of the little things that are. I just thought of one thing to improve every day. You do that 14 times, it's amazing.
That's a lot of things that have been improved.
So that was like a really big turning point for me. And then what I noticed is that for me, these things started snowballing. Because all of a sudden, I was spending time in this office that had been improved. And I'm not talking about like buying a ton of stuff or anything like that. I'm talking about just making it a little bit better organized, cleaning things up. I spent a couple days cleaning up my digital organization and thinking about how I worked with my tools every day. So I came out of that and it's like, wow, this is amazing. And then it made me want to take on more and more stuff. I can honestly say that my life is not just incrementally better, but it's like a lot better over the time that I've been doing it. just because it's so fascinating that when you just put your focus on making small improvements, how that can transform over a couple months.
Yeah.
I want to make it something that everybody could do as well.
Yeah. What got you to the point of wanting to do all this? Was there a certain epiphany or what was your journey that said, hey, I got to do something about this and this is what I'm going to do. Here's my plan.
Oh yeah. I remember the moment pretty clearly is when I got my, my Apple alert that said your screen time is up like 82% and you spent 13 hours this week on screen time.
Oh my gosh.
And so I think that was an epiphany to me because you see how much time you're spending and I'm like, what a waste.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a reason why I'm not feeling good about the world right now. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, that's right.
And if I want to have a better life, I should, not just become obsessed with all of these negative things.
Yeah.
And it's not to ignore what's going on in the world. I'm not saying to ignore it and tune it out. But I think that there's a really big difference between, understanding the facts and the reality of what's going on in the world and becoming obsessive with every little detail about everything that was going on and everybody who is involved in possibly fixing it and everybody's viewpoint on it. Like those are two very different things.
Yep.
And there's only one thing that I can control about this, and that's how I respond to it.
Yep.
And so I think it was seeing that and then just realizing, wow, something has got to change.
Yeah, because and everything else that you described was also helping you get control back, controlling certain areas. And when people feel out of control, that's super stressful, especially stuff that's unpredictable, fear of the unknown, all that. And what you did was you just decided to get back control, and you came up with an amazingly structured plan to do that. And I bet you feel a lot better now, don't you?
Yes.
You solved it. A lot of other people will just kind of go through life just remaining fearful and angry and reactionary. And when you do that, you're using this part of the subconscious part of your brain, and your prefrontal cortex is atrophying the entire time. And then it gets worse and worse because the PFC is the part that you use to form these plans and catch yourself and say, hey, I got to change something, and then actually do it and change it. And when you're doing that, you're going the opposite direction. You're strengthening the PFC and weakening the reactionary brain. So instead of just reacting to life, you are creating it and forming it and shaping it. And that's just amazing. And your stress is going down and all sorts of health implications for that.
Yeah, I lost 15 pounds. And every day I was just tracking it too. Because it feels so good to me to like check something off a list.
Yeah.
Or to look at a list with all these check boxes on it. I don't know, maybe I'm just, OCD or something like that, but it's just so satisfying.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same way. I have the Productive app, and I use that as a habit tracker, but it's also like a checklist.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Shiny squirrel. So behind you to your left is a snake plant. And as you can see,
same location.
So tell me it is. Tell me the reason that you have one. Because I know there is a reason. Yeah,
you are right. There is a reason. Spending so much time indoors these days that there are a couple different things. One, I just think that we're meant to connect with nature.
Yeah.
Secondly, there have been studies that show that one way to actually reduce stress is through having houseplants. And then, thirdly, I'm sure that you've seen all the other studies on like indoor air quality and that what certain plants can do to that. So I read this study that was by NASA. It's funny that I'm wearing like a NASA shirt right now,
It is.
I read a study, it was by NASA, and they were trying to figure out, like, if you're going on these really long space missions and you're going to be stuck in this confined space, like, how do you purify that air? Mm-hmm. How do you make sure that you've got, like, good indoor air quality? Mm-hmm. And so I basically just read through that. They had a list of plants that they had studied, and this was one of them. And so, I think that we have about 25 plants indoors right now.
Wow. That is so great.
Yeah, it's great. And I love them. I think that we want to get some more.
Yeah. So the reason I asked you what your reason is, because I knew your reason already, even though we hadn't had this conversation, because you and I are both researchers. We love it, and we can't help it. And we get obsessive over it and sometimes disappear from our spouses for days because we're so lost in the research because we're so OCD. And so I knew you never do anything without researching it, just like me. And so I knew you had discovered in your research that I knew you'd done that's an air cleaner, and it's one of the best air cleaners. That's why I have mine.
Exactly.
So I went through all the top air cleaning plants, and I narrowed it down to the top 5, and I thought this one was the coolest. So I don't have as fun a story as you with the whole NASA
so
thing. So
funny. You and I did the same thing.
I just liked it the best of all the top 5, so I got that one.
That's what I did too. I was like, that's a cool looking plant.
But I don't know.
And they're like,
can you see
really hardy?
Can you see the vase
too? Yeah.
So that's from German. It's a German design that takes the root ball and circulates air around it to make it even more intense air cleaner. So it magnifies the air cleaning properties. So it's not just the plant that's showing, it's also the roots that are doing the job.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. And are your glasses blue light?
They're not, but that's why one of the reasons why I wear them at the computer.
Yeah.
Is mostly just they're going to provide some protection.
Right. Do you have blue light for your computer?
No. Do you think that's something I should get?
Yeah. Well, it depends on how much time you're in front of the computer. I think you're in front of it a lot.
Pretty much all the time.
Let me grab mine really quick. Normally I don't do it on video calls, but I have the poor man's version. Because you can go really expensive. I mean, you can go all Dave Asprey on these things, and spend $100. I spent $9.95.
Yes. Why don't you wear those on calls, PJ?
They're super comfortable, and they
look really hipster.
They actually block out all the blue. So.
Okay.
Which isn't. I wouldn't recommend these for somebody who's like in front of the computer all day to put these on all day, because as you know, you need some blue light, and this would block out too much.
Yeah.
So I'm only wearing them on the computer because I don't want to block out too much either. But especially after 5 p.m., I'm pretty locked into those suckers, and then I also have the glasses that you turned me on to for the evening.
Oh, the Sleep Saviors?
The Sleep Savior that I put
Sleep Saver Ultras?
Yeah.
Those things are amazing.
They're so great.
I love those things. It's honestly like you put those on at 8:39, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I like about those is they block out the green light too.
That's why I like them.
Can also impact sleep a little bit. So you throw those things on. But it is like taking a sleeping pill for me.
Same. And it's relaxing.
It's crazy.
It's relaxing to me because it takes down the overstimulation of the day. Because essentially what happens when I put those on is I instantly walk into a black and white world. And it's nice. That's really nice. Because less stimulation to my brain, and it helps me calm down. I first discovered that because Bev and I got addicted. See, we don't have a TV. We don't watch TV. I got rid of my TV in 2008, and I've just loved it and never looked back. But we do watch through the Apple TV. We do watch certain shows that are, brain health approved. And one of the shows that we got addicted to was the Andy Griffith Show. That is such a great show. Oh my gosh. I mean, that was one of like Will and Grace and Seinfeld. That show was so brilliantly cast and directed and filmed that it just blows me away. But
Gosh, I
just
gotta put
one
that
of
on
those.
the list.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, so the first few seasons were in black and white, and then they went to color. And then when I wore my sleep saviors, when I put them on and watched that show, because I would always put them on, because even though it's an LED projector that we use instead of a screen, that's better, but still there's blue light in there. So I want to put those suckers on, and it makes it black and white, and it made it look just like the older episodes that were in black and white. And so I go, oh, this is kind of cool. So I never had to, because when it switched to color, Bev's like, oh, I don't know if I like this as much, because I kind of like that old school black and white. And then I go, well, here's the sleep saviors, and then you can have your black and white back. But it does it with the rest of my world, and it's nice. It's just nice to have everything in black and white in the evening to help calm me down.
It's great. Yeah, I would agree. And I think for me too, what's really interesting is those glasses that have become this like symbol, I think, to my body. To
it's a ritual.
Now I'm winding down.
Yes.
I'm moving from this busy day.
Great point.
Now I'm getting ready for sleep. And so like the
Yeah.
instant that I put those on, my body knows to like go into this different mode.
Yes. Change your state. I love it.
Yeah.
So when you texted me your routine, I thought, oh, this is brilliant. And so that's what I wanted to do this call about, is to get that again. We kind of describe your day starting from, well, the whole 24 hours, because sleep is a big part of that too.
Oh yeah. So about a year and 3 months ago, I did this program through Mind Valley. And it's called Lifebook. And I think I've told you about it, but just as a recap, it's this program that helps you organize around 12 areas of your life. So these 12 different categories, and the program talks about having this 12 category life, which is pretty amazing. Like, think if you could have, if you were great at your business life, you were great at your social life, amazing at your family life, amazing at all these your financial life. So it's really kind of this system for thinking about how you're going to set these goals in these areas and then achieve them and live this 12 category life. So I loved it, just having this framework. So I never really thought about doing that before.
Yep.
But one thing that I was having trouble with was I knew that in order to achieve certain things, that there were all these tasks that I had to get done. So for me, it was getting really stressful to think about doing all of those things.
Yep.
And so, for example, one thing that I really wanted to do for my intellectual life was read and make sure that I was reading every day. And I love reading. I typically don't have problem doing it, but it was remembering it, setting aside a time to actually do it. And then I was having trouble reading before I go to bed, just because then my wheels start spinning and I just want to be able to go to bed.
Yep.
So that would be like one example. But then there were certain things that I wanted to do that I just noticed made me feel better. And I wanted to do those too. So I was trying to figure out, would there be some way that I could combine these into a routine that I loved, that I looked forward to. And then the other thing is I could get some of the more important things checked off the list before I started anything else. Because what I was realizing was the instant that I started everything else, I'd be focused on those things.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't get the other things done. And so, and then the other thing that I noticed was if I saved some of these things to the end of the day, I was really good at lying to myself and justifying and making excuses to myself.
Yes.
And I'd be like, oh, I'm pretty tired. Oh my gosh, you worked so hard. You can just let that one go till tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's this side of me that I just don't, that it's like the devil and angel. That's
Yeah.
the devil,
Yeah.
and like I hate that side of myself.
Yeah.
We all probably have it to a certain
We do,
extent.
all of us.
But I was finding it really easy. I was like, what if I just created this routine that I executed every day?
Yeah.
And some of those important things I could just check off the list. And by the time I started other things, like that stuff is all done. But not only that, like I feel amazing. I'm like ready to go do all of this other stuff because I feel like I've already succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've already had a successful day, so of course the rest of my day is gonna be successful.
Yep.
So yeah, that was kind of the thinking, and then it was a lot of optimization in terms of okay, well, how do I fit more into this area,
Mm-hmm.
and how do I kind of compress it? So that was kind of the thinking.
Yeah. So let's start with when you wake up.
I did a couple of things. So I blacked out my room, but I programmed this light to come on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a morning person.
Mm-hmm.
Like 7 a.m. is pretty early to me.
Yeah.
But I kind of need a little kick to get started.
Mm-hmm.
So I programmed this light to come on in my room automatically every morning at 7.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually kind of annoying, and like you don't really want to have it on for too much longer. You just want to like get up, basically. And like
does it slowly come on, or does it just turn on?
It just turns on. Yeah.
Is it a certain kind of light, or is it just a light?
So it's a Lifex, Lafx. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's the brand name of it.
Yeah.
You could do this with any other light, but I just liked it because they had schedules, and also I use it at night, so you can program it to be certain colors.
Gotcha.
And so it has this dual purpose. In the second purpose, what I use it for at night is to be a red light,
Mm-hmm.
so I can take my glasses off and then brush my teeth, get ready for bed.
Yeah. Great.
And then I don't have blue light coming in to like disrupt the flow of melatonin.
Right. Are there certain wavelengths to that too?
So I did blue. So it comes on, it's blue light. But also I just think it looks cool.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it looks cool, but also there have been some studies on blue light and kind of resetting that circadian rhythm.
Yep.
So it comes on, it's blue light, and then what I'll do is I'll do some light therapies, and so you and I have talked a lot about this, but I do some red and UV light therapy, red light therapy, near infrared, and then I'll do UV.
Mm-hmm. So
I have a lamp that I got, and the reason why I did this is I was having my vitamin D tested pretty regularly. And vitamin D, we're in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
It is a challenge, I think, for most people
Mm-hmm.
to keep their vitamin D levels up.
Mm-hmm.
But I was having to take absurd quantities of vitamin D every day
Mm-hmm.
to get to the right levels, and so I tried this light instead, and that has been working really well for me.
Mm-hmm.
I only do it for like a minute and a half every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on my like lower back. I found another study that said that was kind of the optimal point for absorption.
Mm-hmm.
It's worked fantastically well. It's helped my vitamin D levels. That in turn, I think, helps my mood and all sorts of other stuff.
Yep.
But there is also a little bit of a danger for skin damage and things like that. But that can be mitigated from what I've read through red light and then also some near infrared light. And so that's what that one's for. I do them at the same time.
Well, you're not in front of it long enough for skin damage, are you?
Probably not. So I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But if I have this red light anyway, it's
Right.
right there. And I've read some other studies that have indicated that you can use those at the same time
Yep.
to mitigate any effects of that.
Love it.
And once again, I'm just telling you my experiences. I'm telling you like what I've learned. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a professional researcher. I have none of those. Don't listen to me. Go talk to a medical professional. But these are just some things that I've read. and then I'll do red light in other places.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll kind of alternate this. Some days I'll do my face. I think I shared that study that I found with you where that guy just like removed all of his wrinkles, that MD, PhD.
Yeah.
Do you remember that with green tea? It was like green tea.
Well, remember, I did it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I followed the protocol, and I think it helped a little bit, but I had before and after pictures, and I didn't see as much as he did.
His was crazy.
Although he looked older from the start than I did in my start. So, a lot of people, I just turned 54 and people tell me I certainly don't look that. But, and so maybe that's part of it too, because I just don't have a whole lot of wrinkles. But anyways, yeah, so I certainly did that. And I know it was good for me, even if I didn't see the effects that he did. I know that it was still really a healthy thing to do. And I still do my red light every day, every morning, every night when I brush my teeth.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. I thought it was really interesting what he did by answering. So the red light and near infrared light will stimulate reactive oxygen species. And so his theory was that you could basically mitigate the excess reactive oxygen species by introducing the green tea, and what is it, the ECGC in the green tea that buffers that reactive oxygen species. If I recall correctly, it's been a little while since I've read that paper, but so I'll do red light, different parts of the body, and then I'll go get in the sauna. And so I got really interested in the sauna from Find My Fitness.
I know her. Yeah,
Rhonda.
Yeah.
She is amazing.
Yeah,
but she has a lot of this content on saunas, and she shares like all of her research on it. But I thought that was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Some of the studies that she shared and how much that could mitigate things like stroke and cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
I know that Tim Ferriss, he wrote. I think it was like in 2014, he wrote this blog post called "Are Saunas the Next Performance Enhancing Drug?" And so that's like a really good blog post. It talks about like all the things that it will do to your brain. That it's going to be like heat shock proteins, brain derived neurotropic factor. So all of these impacts, and I know some people don't like it. I love the sauna. To me, it's amazing. I look forward to doing it every day. And so, but the sauna is also this great place where you can go in and you're just sitting there, but you've got 45 minutes where you can be doing other things.
Yeah.
So you can listen to a podcast. You can read in there, 10 pages or 20 pages of a book.
Yeah.
So I have this little routine where I'll get in the sauna, and then the first thing that I'll do is this thing called the 5-minute journal. And are you familiar with it?
Yep.
So you can Google it, but it's just a really quick way. One of the things in there is gratitude.
Yep.
And so it's what are 3 things that you're thankful for? How are you going to make today great? And so I just find that it's a really good, positive way to start my day. And so I'll finish that. I'll look at my calendar for the day and kind of plan it out. I'll read 10 pages from a book, minimum 10 pages, so I can check that off the list. And then I will I'll spend the remainder of the time on education. And so this will depend on what I'm focusing on. Right now, it's all entrepreneur related material, but I'll spend 30 to 40 minutes getting through that. The other thing that I do while I'm in there is I have by my bedside when I go to bed, I'll take a liter of water with me. Yeah. And so I try to drink 3.7 liters of water per day. I just rounded up to 4. And so it makes it really easy. Like you get your first liter down. Yeah. When you're done with the sauna.
Love it.
And then I go shower and then I'm done.
Love it.
And so if you think about that, you've done a couple things. Oh, make my bed.
Uh-huh.
So make my bed,
Yeah.
clean my room,
Yeah.
do the light therapy, drink a thing of water,
Mm-hmm.
do a journal where you're expressing gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
plan your day, and then read 10 pages out of a book, and you got 30, 45 minutes of education, which you can continue in the shower.
Yeah.
So in under an hour, you've done all of that.
Yeah. Are you doing any niacin before you get in the sauna?
No, I was doing that for a little while. That might be something that I start doing again. Yeah.
Okay, so after you drink your water, what's next?
So usually by that time is done. Oh, I forgot one thing. Sorry about this. I usually have it written down. I weigh myself.
Nice.
So I weigh myself before I get into the sauna, and then I track that, just because I feel like it's really easy to remember it.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I get in the shower, and then it's just all about getting ready for the day. I get dressed, and then by the time that I'm done there, I grab a cup of coffee. I sit down at my desk. I haven't done anything digitally yet.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't opened my computer. I haven't looked at my phone. But by the time I sit down, and this will be like 8 o'clock, I'm like ready to go for the day.
Oh gosh, yes. And then, quick question: is your coffee organic?
It's organic, yeah.
Okay, good. So you're ready to go, and then throughout the day, you're eating based on, I think you said based on the scale weight.
Yeah. So I just after realizing that I had gained 15 pounds, and I've watched Peter Attia, and I loved his approach because I was like, that's so simple. But I realized I needed to lose weight.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just trying to figure out what's the thing that's going to have me not think at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the thing that's going to be easiest for me to stick to.
Yep.
So I decided on the green smoothie like we were talking about earlier, then I could eat dinner. But then there's one other thing, which is if I'm at or below my goal weight, then I'll have a green tea smoothie plus a can of sardines.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I'm above my goal weight, then I just remove the sardines.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be working really well.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why sardines, and some people might say, oh my gosh, that's disgusting. How do you do that? But there's a whole world of sardines, and there's some really good ones out there.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But that's another thing that
Why sardines and not some other fish?
because they come in a can and you can buy a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're cold water fish. They're usually small, so
Yep.
they're not high in mercury or anything like that. But
Bingo.
it's basically the three reasons. One is convenience. You throw them in your pantry. Secondly, the serving size, you don't have to worry about that. Thirdly, really high in omega-3s.
Yep.
So very, very high in omega-3s. So this is going to be great for your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And then lack of
Yes.
mercury and things like that.
Bingo. That's the biggest one,
Yeah.
I think, because they're so young and small that they just they don't live long enough to build up mercury.
Exactly.
And then dinner and evening routine.
Yeah, dinner and evening. So we talked about that's kind of family time.
Yeah.
And so
That's one of your F's.
it's the F's, but oftentimes we have a 3.5-year-old daughter, so we've just personally found it difficult to plan out our meals and eat perfectly.
Yeah.
So for dinner, I'll just do whatever I want, more or less, within reason. I'm not like going out and getting KFC every day or anything like that. Actually, never having KFC. But I more or less just kind of do whatever I want. And what I found is that just through that routine, it's pretty easy for me to stay at my goal weight. I don't have to think about it too much.
Love it.
So I'm still getting all of my vegetables and all great antioxidants from berries.
Yep.
Through the green smoothie. I know that I've got my omega-3s. So like kind of all of that nutrient dense stuff I'm getting in my smoothie and during my lunch. I also take a walk. And so I kind of ease the restrictions at dinner just so that I'm not counting out calories. I'm not doing anything like this. Like this to me would require zero self-discipline to maintain the rest of my life. I don't have to think about it. And that's what it's all about. It's like, for me, it was really finding that thing that I know that I could stick with indefinitely.
Yep.
That was going to be a reasonable baseline.
Yeah.
And I can always make certain parts of it better, but that's the thing that I can stick with for the rest of my life.
Yep. I love it. And a lot of this that you're describing to me is also detoxing. The sauna, what you're eating, the light therapy, which is huge. Now, before you got COVID, were you up on a lot of this stuff, or were you not doing much of this stuff?
I wasn't doing much of it. I had kind of taken a couple months off. I was working on a new project at work, and was really just kind of thinking about that. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing it before that, but it kind of taken a couple month hiatus for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Because I've been, of course, we're both researching stuff all the time, and as a health researcher, I'm of course diving into all the COVID stuff too, and I've read a lot of things that indicate people who are detoxed and who do regular detox things aren't getting it. And even if they're exposed, they either have no symptoms or they just don't even get it. Because I went and got tested, and when I went in, he told me that, yeah, you're negative. So, and he said, so that means you haven't been exposed yet. And I didn't want to get into it with him because I didn't want to sit there and have a debate in case it would have turned into a debate. But what he doesn't know, and it's a shame that nobody has explained it to him, is that there's two kinds of people that healthy immune system people. So there's the one kind of person that gets exposed enough and the virus replicates enough that they build up antibodies, but they don't have symptoms, or they have mild symptoms. And then there's the kind of person who gets exposed. The virus does get into their body, but it just can't get into any of the cells because, they're fully coated with vitamin A, and all of the first lines of defenses just say no. And so the virus can't even get in to start replicating. And so then that person doesn't ever form antibodies because it wasn't exposed to enough virus material to form them. Didn't need to.
Wow.
And so those are two kinds of people that won't ever get COVID or at least the symptoms of it. One of those kinds of people doesn't get antibodies. So everybody in the world who is exposed, if the virus comes in, you don't have to get it, and you don't have to even build up antibodies. It's not a for sure thing. And there's plenty of people that are exposed. I'm sure I was, because I have a gym. I'm around tons of people. So it would be highly unlikely that I would not have been exposed. So it's possible that not one person came across my path that exposed me. It's possible that I am completely sterile and I haven't been exposed. I just don't think it's likely. And so I think I'm probably the kind of people that couldn't get into the cell. And so it just, but viruses are always dying unless they're replicating. So it just gave up. It just died off. But we could go, this is a whole thing. We could talk for hours on viruses and whether they're even considered alive or dying, whether they're even whether they're just an exosome or whether they're an actual thing that floats around and does infect people, or whether it's just a byproduct of a cell cleansing itself and kicking out dirty stuff. There's always two distant sides of the spectrum to everything. The truth is somewhere in the middle, somewhere in here. It might be over to one side or the other, but you have this side of the spectrum that is irresponsible mass media. And you have this side of the spectrum who are the super conservative, paranoid conspiracy theorists. And so what I do as a fair researcher is I start with both extremes. I get their side, and then I get their side. And both of the sides are really interesting and super entertaining, because there's ridiculous things on both sides that are actually really funny. And so I love going there first. And then I with that perspective, now I have the whole spectrum in my brain, so I don't have an agenda and I'm not locked out to either side. Then I start looking at all the other things that people come up with, and I come up with my truth. And like you said earlier, that's your truth, that's my truth. And we share a lot of things, a lot of knowledge, because we have independently researched a lot of things that we've discovered in common on our own. And we've also shared information between each other that we're doing. But you and me are both skeptics. We're automatic skeptics, and which is the opposite of gullible. So when we hear something, we're like, wow, that's fascinating, but we don't actually believe it right away. We have to go find out for ourselves if that's actually true, because there's most stuff that you hear is not true. Mm-hmm. And but even the stuff that is true that I hear, I gotta verify that. And that's how you really come up with your own truth. And truth is flexible too, because you might find a truth about something. I might find another truth about the exact same thing. And we're both going to benefit because we're different and our circumstances are different. So truth is also relative of what helps a particular person. But, that's my philosophy and how I believe is the best way to think and the most open-minded. Most of the people out there that say, oh, how am I really open-minded, are the most closed-minded. The ones that say that the most are the most closed-minded. And, they'll agree with you as long as you're as open-minded as they are about the stuff they believe. But the second you disagree...
They're very open-minded about exactly what they believe.
Right. But the true way to be open-minded is to listen and for sure be fascinating, because when I hear things for the first time, I'm always fascinated because life is fascinating. I mean, it's like, wow, I'm just all day. I'm like, wow. And like a toddler. But that's what makes life fun. And then I'll go see if that is actually accurate and if I need to be fascinated or not. But it's really fun to start out that way with everything anyways. So then tell me about when you go to bed and when you're asleep. So I know you recently got your cooler pad. Your Uller.
Yes.
And you're loving that.
So I have had trouble sleeping my entire life. Mm-hmm. Even when I was a kid. So my parents would buy me hypnosis programs, like self-hypnosis programs to listen to at night. Mm-hmm. And I think my problem has always been that I've never been able to turn my mind off. Mm. And so as a kid, 2 and 3 years old, like I had books read to me and I never wanted to stop reading. Like I wasn't ready. I think a portion of this, I think it's kind of a couple different things, just having this chronotype that skews a little later than most people, just naturally. But that combined with this mind that I've never been able to turn off has made sleep just a huge challenge for me for most of my life. So I've been working on really trying to solve that. So I've done, I think, a lot of work on my room to make it an environment that's going to be conducive to sleep. Mm-hmm. And so this kind of starts with the red light glasses. Yep. And then I'm going to go into my room. I've done a lot of work to completely black that room out so no light comes in, not just at night, but in the morning when the sun comes up. Mm-hmm. So the only reason I know it's time is it's the blue light. Yep. I can probably count the times on my hand that I've used an alarm clock in the last 12 years. Wow. On my hands. So I don't use an alarm. I just wake up when I wake up. But there are probably some people that can't imagine that. But after a while, you just start waking up at the same time every day. And you don't need an alarm clock. At least that's what happened to me. I have an air filter. So I have a HEPA air filter in my room. I have a humidifier that will be in a temperature and humidity sensor.
Nice.
This sounds ridiculous now that I'm saying it. It sounds completely ridiculous. And the goal of this was not just to nerd out and buy all these like tools. Like the reason why I did this is like just can't sleep. That's the reason why. So have a mattress that I just personally think is like one of the most comfortable out there. But I've always been like this hot sleeper. And I recently read, this was like, a week or two ago, that one of the reasons why a lot of people have trouble sleeping is their prefrontal cortex is too hot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a temperature thing on the prefrontal cortex. So I was like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Like, I can't cool down at night. I'm so hot all the time at night. So, I'll always sleep with my windows open, even through the winter. And I just think it's amazing. So I thought about like buying the Uller. So, bought it last night, and it was a game changer for me. Like, that was probably one of the best night's sleep that I've ever had.
Jeez.
And so I do think that we'll see how things go, but it was just so nice to be able to get in bed and also have covers on top of me, because I think this is another thing. I sleep really well when I've got a little weight on me. And so I have a down comforter and then a gravity blanket, so a weighted blanket.
Isn't Rocco enough?
Oh, Rocco's in there too. Yeah. He
That's a little weight on you.
So I know this is being recorded. Other people will watch this, but this is Rocco.
Rocco. Hey, Rocco.
He's a good dog. He's a really good dog. But yeah, Rocco insists on sleeping in the bed too, under the covers. And so he'll get in, and then he like crawls under the bed and then goes to sleep, and then he's just like sawing logs.
Yeah.
But he doesn't like to be disturbed. I don't like to be disturbed. But and then he also sleeps in. And so when I'm doing my routine, he's still sleeping. Nice. And then I'll come up, and he like oftentimes doesn't get up till like 8:30 or 9.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Dog's life.
Have the gravity blanket, the weighted blanket. But before Uller, that was just like way too hot.
Yep.
But it's pretty incredible to sleep a little cooler with that Uller, and then you have these blankets on top of you to get the heat. Dude,
it's like a sleep sandwich.
It's like a sleep sandwich. But one thing that had never occurred to me is, in the couple 100,000 years of hominid experience, that's probably how we always slept, which is on the cold ground.
Yep.
Maybe, I'm sure, some insulating layers on top of that, but then some insulating layers on top of us that weighted us down. That had never occurred to me.
Yes, you're right. And with the cold ground underneath, geothermal, and which, by the way, never heats up, because geothermal is constantly. So with a mattress, it'll heat up and it'll stay hot. With your Uller, it's like the geothermal. And back our ancestry, until like 50, 60 years ago, we were not as insulated from the ground, and our ancestors weren't insulated at all because they didn't have the material to insulate themselves from the ground, like the rubber-soled shoes and the foundations and stuff that we have in the high buildings. So that's my next question is, do you also have some sort of a pad or material in your bed to ground you?
I do. I've used it in the past, but the problem was, and why I took it off my bed, was I was getting too hot while I was using it. It just doesn't breathe. And so sleeping on that thing was amazing, but for me, it was just not really feasible because I would overheat with it.
Right. So I have a hack for that. It doesn't have to be the whole body. And what Bev and I do is we bought the pillowcases and intending to use them as pillowcases because that's all you need for full grounding. It's just to lay your skin on, that. But we didn't like them. So what I did was I said, well, I wonder if this will go through our jersey sheets, because the sheets are they're natural fiber and they're pretty thin. So I put the pillowcases underneath the sheet and I pinned them down to hold them in place. And then I used my gizmo to test grounded or not with my skin. And sure enough, it works just as well as laying on it as a pillowcase. So we have the breathable layer between us and those pillowcases, which are also breathable. So I wonder, or you could just even put it under, like your feet would be enough. Just
that's what I was thinking. So that's what I'm going to try tonight.
Yeah.
Is basically just putting it down at the base of my bed, so my feet are on it, and then, but I don't think that it'll overheat.
No, I can't imagine.
That plus the Uller.
Not with the Uller. That'll keep up with it for sure.
Another change that I'm going to make is I realized something that was also really interesting is that I woke up at 4 a.m. This morning and I was too cold.
Interesting. What did you have it set at?
I had it set at 63.
Okay.
And so like 63, it almost didn't feel cold enough to me.
Yeah.
When I was going to bed.
Right.
But at 4 a.m., 68 didn't feel warm enough. And so I'm gonna experiment with setting different temperatures.
Got to play around. Yeah.
And playing around. And so what I basically did for tonight is set the temperature to 68 at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'll just play with that, and then set it to 72 at 7 a.m.
Oh, so it has an app where you can change the temperature according to the time?
Yes.
Oh, crap. I wish you hadn't told me that. That was the reason I was using to delay and not get one.
Wow.
Dang it. You're such an expensive friend.
Sorry about that.
Oh, dang. Does it have dual zones? One side to the other?
If you get, as I understand it, there's a model with dual zones. So, like, you could set yours to 50 degrees all night and then have it go up to 78 at 7 a.m. and then Bev could be on her zone and do the same thing.
Dang you.
Sorry about that.
Every time we talk, it costs me at least $100.
Sorry. Oh, man.
Too funny. So this is sustainable. And it sounds like you're pretty committed because you can feel and see the results from and it doesn't feel like work because you've structured it in such a way that and spaced everything out and habits stacked with triggers, and some of the habits are triggering other habits like in the sauna. And that's really what's taken the effort out of it. And that's the biggest problem people have with forming new habits is it's just too darn hard. And that all humans, you, me, everyone, even the most hardworking and most successful are lazy. We're all lazy. But that's not a derogatory term. It just means that the human body and brain is designed to be efficient, to expend as least energy as possible. The brain expends the most energy of everything, even our muscle mass. I mean, at 30%, up to 30% of our calories are burned. Our basal metabolic rate is coming from here.
Amazing.
But the body knows that it needs to conserve energy because that's a very expensive resource, and so it wants to be as efficient as possible. And so when we use the term lazy, that's just the body trying to be efficient. And so it's easier to do nothing than something. And habits are something. So what I've noticed is a lot of people go into this COVID thing, their normal routines are disrupted, and so all those triggers are gone, and their habits are just gone. and then they just sit around. They don't know what to do, and their body says, well, since we don't know what to do, let's do what I want to do, which is save energy, and let's just sit down on the couch and turn on the TV for all the blue light that takes our brain waves down past sleeping levels, and do all these and eat, just sit here and eat. The brain and the body says, well, if you don't know what to do and your routine's disrupted, I know what to do, so I'm just going to take over and I'm going to make us really super lazy. And then all these routines go to heck, all these people gain weight and their health goes to heck and all this stuff, and it's not because they're lazy or they don't have any willpower, it's because of this whole disruption. So then what you're doing is so smart. You're creating this routine and these triggers with minimal possible effort, which is the number one thing. They're easy. They have triggers upon triggers, and it's minimal possible effort, which is the wisest thing to do to make something that's sustainable. If it's hard, it's a bad idea. But if you structure it so it's an easy thing, then it's something that can actually change your life.
Exactly. And I think that there can be like even optimizations on this.
Yeah.
So I had been wanting to start using a water pick. And so I had this water pick, but it was on my counter. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed is I wasn't using it consistently. And so as consistently as I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And so I started thinking, well, why is that the case? He's like, oh gosh, it shoots water everywhere. It's really loud. I actually don't like having it on our counter.
Yeah.
At our bathroom counter. It's big and it's bulky. I'm like, okay, well, and I get wet. It like kind of makes a mess. That's probably just because I don't know how to use it. But so I'm like, well, how do you solve each one of those problems? Okay, well, what if I had like a smaller one that was portable that I could use in an environment where it didn't matter if I got wet, which is the shower. And then, so what if I had something that I could just use in the shower and then it sprays everywhere? Great. No big deal. You're in the shower. But it was really interesting. But just by doing that one thing, now I have it in the shower. I see it in there. And then my thought process is completely different.
Yeah.
It's not, oh my gosh, I know that I need to do that. But there are all these barriers. I have to worry about like getting the bathroom wet. And that's actually where your brain stops. Like, okay, I'm just not going to do it.
Yep.
Whereas now it's like, okay, this is there. There's really no reason not to do it.
Yep. So it's battery operated, obviously.
Yeah, battery operated, waterproof, obviously.
Because you wouldn't want to bring that in with the power cord.
No, I think that would be generally frowned upon.
Of course, luckily, where we both live, we have ground fault interrupters, but still, it's not that you can't depend on that. So
I think even with these habit stacks, it's sometimes you need to do these, like what I just found for myself is doing these micro optimizations within those little things
and one
can be really helpful.
Yep.
And it could be like the smallest little thing. Mm-hmm. Like what I've noticed is that like my subconscious is literally, you'd imagine exactly the person that you described. My subconscious, if it were personified, would be this like person on the couch just eating Doritos. The laziest thing in the world.
Same with
laziest person in the world.
Same with mine.
And so like I have to eliminate every excuse from that subconscious until none of them are left. And sometimes it's so funny. It's like, it's the easiest, the smallest little things where like, how could that have possibly kept me from doing that?
Yep.
But it does. Like, for example, like having my red light machines plugged in.
Yep.
And just there. So all you have to do is turn them on.
Yep.
Like, it was crazy. I probably lost a few weeks of doing that just because one day I unplugged them and they weren't there. Or another thing, I'll give you an example.
Hold on though, because it's really funny that you would save that because I had the same problem. So I have my vitamin D. It's a whole big huge wall system, and then my red LED infrared, and they're both plugged into the same cord, and then I have that plugged into the wall. Well, when I'm done, I've got a switch that I flip off on the LED system, but with the a vitamin D system, the UV system, it's a timer. It's a mechanical timer that, and so I don't want to reverse it to turn it off because that's bad on the timer. Whereas now, so what I would do is I would unplug it from the wall, and then then I've got that cord in the way, and I'll have to put it on the floor, and so then I can't tell you how many times I didn't want bending over to pick it up and plug it in was too much, so I just skipped it for that time. And that's exactly what you're talking about. But so what I did was I got a power strip and I plugged them both into that instead of just a coupler thing. And the power strip has a switch on it. So just the switch, instead of unplugging and replugging, was the game changer.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy, but it's so human.
It's so human.
Yeah.
And so like I think about this with everything in my life. If I'm not doing it, I think like it's probably not me. It's just that there's something there that's preventing me from doing it.
Yeah.
But it's not my fault. It doesn't say anything about me as a human, because I find that takes me down this path of negative self-talk, and about this person who can't accomplish things. But if you frame it differently,
right,
you say there's probably some friction here.
Yeah.
And then I'm engaging in like my engineer kind of brain. Now it's a problem that you can go solve.
Yep.
And usually I think like 9 times out of 10, what I'm finding is it's something of friction that's stopping me.
Yep.
And it has nothing to do with like my self-esteem. It's just like everything's not dialed yet. Yep. So another thing was with my air filter. And this is a very similar example to yours. And so I was realizing that I wasn't using that.
Yeah.
And then the humidifier was the same thing. Like, wait, why am I not using that? And then I was realizing that I didn't like having them on when I wasn't in my room, because it just seemed like a waste of energy. And then the other thing too is for the humidifier, like, I don't really want to have that thing on if my room's too humid to begin with. And so I hooked them both up to this smart plug. And so I was able to program that to turn them both on at 9 p.m. And so, I could run for an hour and a half before I go to bed. But then with the humidifier, so it turns on, it has power, but then I got another device that is a humidity sensor, so that it will only turn on if the humidity is below 55%.
Love it.
Which was the optimal humidity level for a bedroom when I Googled it.
I love it.
And now I just don't even worry about it. And then the other thing too is like filling it up, but I don't have to worry about that either, because I just bought one with a bigger reservoir.
Nice.
And then it's only on for 8 hours. It's only on when I need it. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Do you do any EMF mitigation? I know your sauna is really low EMF, which is super smart. Do you do any EMF mitigation when you're sleeping? I would love to get your thoughts on this, because I've been thinking about it. I know that I probably should, but it's just something that I haven't done yet. But I would love to hear your thoughts. One thing that I was thinking about was turning off my Wi-Fi at a certain period of time. But then I know that if I turn on my phone, I can see my neighbor's Wi-Fi. But I would love to hear like what you've come up with to mitigate EMF. Well, with Wi-Fi, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say, as long as you're far enough away from it. So we have ours is in the opposite corner of where we sleep, of where we live. I mean, we're both minimalists, so where we live is small, but still, it's probably 30 feet away from where we sleep. And if you go up to a router, take an EMF reading, you move 3 feet away, it's half. Another 3 feet away, it's half again. So by the time we're in our bedroom, I don't worry about it. But it's enough to definitely have an effect on the human body. And same with the phones, too close to us, and it's the same half-life philosophy, but for distance away. But the main thing that helps us is the grounding pillowcases that we're sleeping on.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the best way to mitigate it, for sure. And sometimes I'll come in, and if she goes to bed first, and to unwind and stuff, and sometimes she'll be asleep when I come in because I'll get on a research rampage and be up later, and then she'll be in and she'll be asleep. And she has just been on her phone, and she fell asleep as she was on her phone, and it fell down. And I'm like, oh, don't do that. But at least I know she's being grounded. And so then I'll quickly take it off, and I'll put it away. But I also got her a case for her phone that has a metal reflector. So because she likes to put her phone in her jogger bra and use the speakerphone. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty much the worst place you could put it, second to your head. And so I couldn't break her that habit, so I got her the case to reflect it. At least it reflects it away from her now. But number one, I think best step would be to get back to the grounding, and then number two is just distance away from you. I'm not nearly as a militant fanatic as the extreme conspiracy theorist over there, but I'm certainly I found my truth to be certainly somewhere in the middle.
Speaking of conspiracy theorists, there has been a book on my list that I've been really wanting to read, and it's called The Non-Tinfoil Hat Guide to EMFs.
Nice.
Have you heard of that book?
Uh-uh.
The Non-Tinfoil Guide to EMFs.
Mm-hmm.
And it is by Nicholas, I'm probably going to botch this name, Pinault.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, this has been on my list. How to fix our stupid use of technology. But one thing that's the subtitle of the book. But one thing that I've been thinking about doing with regard to phones. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of on my list of things to optimize.
Yeah.
Is just not bringing my phone in my room at all. And so, like, my room is for two things. It's basically sleeping and starting my day. And so that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And gosh, the phone is probably like the worst thing for me personally to have in my room.
Yep.
Because I'll think about something stupid. I noticed that the humidifier has this light on. What's going on there? And then all of a sudden, like 4 minutes later, I'm reading about the gross domestic product of Zanzibar. and I'll be like, how did that happen? I was going to investigate what this indicator light, and like in 3 minutes, I'm like engrossed in the gross domestic product with Zanzibar. Like, how the hell did that happen? I didn't even know the path that it took me to get there. So it's like the worst possible thing for me personally to have anywhere near me, because
I hear you.
Next thing it's like 1 a.m. and I've read 8 papers on whatever.
Yeah, I banned myself from TikTok because someone told me about it, and I went on there, and I'm like, wow, this is. Have you heard of intermittent rewards?
Yes.
Yeah,
I have.
That's the most addicting situation for the human brain, is the intermittent reward thing, and TikTok is just designed and engineered for that. And so I was swiping through it, and that's really funny, or ooh, that's really interesting, or wow, that's an amazing dance. And then most of it's really boring and stupid, and some of it is really amazing, and that's where the whole intermittent reward thing, and that's where it locks you in and keeps you. 3 hours went by. It felt like 10 minutes, and I looked and I'm like, whoa! I needed to be in bed 2 hours ago. What happened? Where did that go? And then I told myself, I said, nope. Before I get too much more addicted to this, I'm doing curfews. I haven't been on it since I can remember.
So there's a whole body of work on that. It was all, oddly enough, based on B.F. Skinner's work. Are you familiar with B.F. Skinner? Mm-hmm. And so he created the Skinner box, where it would, a mouse would have a reward. They go in, they hit the lever, they get the reward, and it would create this loop, in this reward loop. Later on, a lot of people understood this, that this could be applied digitally. And so there's this entire body of work on it.
Yeah, totally.
That a lot of people who work in digital products, to a certain extent, it's really interesting to read. But yes, platforms like TikTok are definitely designed to do exactly that. Mm-hmm. There's going to be some sort of trigger. You are bored.
Yeah.
And so you think, oh, what do I do when I'm bored? Oh, I'm going to go. Your brain starts associating that with the place where it's going to go get that reward.
Yep.
And that could be Facebook. Mm-hmm. It could be TikTok. Mm-hmm. Any of these other digital platforms, and then you're going to go make some sort of an investment.
Yep.
And so, which in a lot of ways, if you think about some of the platforms, it's going to be submitting content, and then you're going to get a whole bunch of likes on that. So you keep going back, or comments, and you start reading those.
Yep.
And that's going to help kind of close that loop.
Yep.
So that you'll go back that one more time.
Yep. And the thing that keeps feeding that loop is the fact that all humans are dope addicts. By dope, I mean dopamine. And you get a great shot of dopamine when you get your reward, but you actually get a bigger shot of dopamine anticipating a reward.
Anticipating. Exactly right. It's all about anticipation.
Bingo. And that's why intermittent rewards work so much better and more effectively than regular rewards. Because with regular rewards, you know you're going to get it. And then you get it, you get a little shot of dopamine. And then the next time, you know you're going to get it. There's no shot of dopamine because you're not anticipating. You know you're going to get it. Then you get it, and there's a little shot. The big shots come with anticipation. So when you're flipping through the TikToks and you're seeing all the boring stuff, every flip, you're actually getting a big shot of dopamine, thinking the next swipe is going to be really cool. And so you're actually addicted to those more than the really cool things.
Exactly.
And that's why gamblers that win big go back to gambling, because the winning big was sure fun, but they get a bigger hit anticipating the win.
Oh, exactly. And so a lot of the slot machines will be designed specifically for this, and so it's no longer a win or a lose. Mm-hmm. There are all of these micro wins.
Yeah.
And then these rewards from different sounds and the anticipation that certain things are going to happen.
Yeah.
They're all designed that way.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't know if I've told you this before, but I feel like we're living in one of the most amazing times for human beings, or also one of the worst.
Yeah.
And most challenging. Well, probably not. I'll take that back. Not at all. But from one dimension, I would say, from the perspective of attention, mm-hmm. it's either the best or the worst, and there's very little middle ground because I think that a lot of these things, people can get addicted to them, mm-hmm. and they lose time. They lose 3 hours. Like my 13 hours when I was addicted to the news for COVID, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Anticipating that something might happen.
Yeah.
That there's a cure announced, or there's something else announced, or there's a new study out. I was following all the science at that time. And so I think that's why I got addicted to spending 13 hours on it, was just the anticipation that there was going to be some new news on COVID, that it was cured or something else, even though I knew that was
right.
very, very unlikely.
Yeah.
I think that we're living in this time where you have access to anything that you want.
Yep.
What an amazing time to be alive. If you want to learn anything in the world, mm-hmm. you can go learn it.
Yep.
So we took that class on filmmaking from Werner Herzog.
Yep.
And this is one of the things that he said. He was saying that he thought that filmmaking was, or film school, as an example, in his opinion, was one of the worst things that you could ever do. He thinks that you can learn everything that you need to know about filmmaking in 2 weeks.
That's what appealed to me the most about that masterclass, is because he wasn't coming from a educated filmmaker perspective. He was coming from a creative filmmaker perspective.
So, but I believe in that there are you can learn 80% of what you need to know in most topics pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then that 20% takes forever.
Right.
But you could learn the basics of things pretty quickly.
Right.
And we have the world's best teachers at our fingertips today.
Yep.
In any class that you want to take,
mm-hmm.
like you could go find, if you wanted to go learn something like bookkeeping, you could go on Udemy and find class there for not too much money, or just learn the basics on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like what a time to be alive.
Yep. You're right.
So,
because if you go back to our pioneer days, everyone was a specialist. And you were good at a handful of things, and you were amazing at one thing.
Yes.
And you would go to that person to be amazing, to have them help you with what they're amazing at. But now we can be amazing at lots of stuff.
You can be amazing at a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, but you can only do that if you have the time, if you have the attention.
Attention.
And it's the attention.
Yeah.
And so, what I think is that in order to be able to have that attention, then turning off all of these things that are interrupting
mm-hmm.
or getting you into these dopamine cycles where you're constantly trying to get another dopamine hit,
yep.
like the more that you can do to remove that stimulus, the better.
Yep.
And so if you think about well, gosh, there are people in prison getting in shape.
Yeah.
Why can't I get in shape? And I'm not locked up.
Yeah.
It's because I think that in prison there aren't too many things to do,
mm-hmm.
but you can work out.
Yeah.
And you can read, and there are probably a few things that you can do. And so all of a sudden, those things become, relatively speaking, very interesting.
Yeah. Right, because there's less distractions. There's so much now in our world to distract us, and if we let that happen, then we don't get amazing at anything.
That's right. So I have all of the notifications on my phone turned off, and I have time blocked out where a couple times during the day where I will go check my email. I'll check all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I can get through extremely fast.
Yeah.
With this new product called Superhuman. It's amazing. One of my favorite things.
Is it an Asprey product?
No, it's not a Dave Asprey product. It's an email startup. I never thought that I'd love email, but they made this great product where it's not intimidating to go into my email anymore. So I think the more that you can do to turn off digitally, the better it's going to be for your brain.
Yeah.
Where you can get into deep work.
Yeah. Because what you said earlier, all that digital stuff has been designed for dopamine addiction.
Exactly. Where you go in and you look for one thing, and then all of a sudden, it's GB and Zanzibar, and you don't know what happened.
That erodes our attention span faster than anything. And it's actually detraining our prefrontal cortex, which is where we get an attention span. And it's just the most unhealthy thing ever for the human brain.
Exactly. The one notifications that I have on right now are my calendar reminders on my desktop, and that's it.
Yep. Good.
So, and that's because it's something that's time bound, that if I don't have a notification,
mm-hmm.
There'd be a huge negative consequence to me, which is somebody else thinking that I can't keep my commitments.
Right.
And so to me, that's worth it. I need to be interrupted to go do that. Otherwise I'll just forget.
Yep. It's funny because I have all these things around here that I intend, I'm a good multitasker. I like to multitask. So I have my active 5 here that's isometric, to do isometric contractions.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I need to do that because I fidget a lot.
Yeah. And I've got
what is it called?
In my, in my pack that I always have here. I've got my lacrosse ball, for pressure point, trigger point therapy and pressure release. And somewhere around here, I've got my little tubing thing where I do outward rotation. But you know what? I end up not doing any of those things. And up until this moment, that you helped me realize something. Up until this moment, I was like, oh man, I just got to do that. I have to multitask more. But what I just realized was that the reason that I don't do these things is because I am good at focusing. I don't want to lose that ability. I don't think to do these things. I don't even see them. Even though this is sitting right here in my field of vision, I don't ever remember to use it because I'm focused. Now I know that's a good thing. Now I know I need to keep doing that because that's helping me keep my prefrontal cortex in shape, and focus is a good thing.
Yes. I bet if you put it on if it were, the way that I think about it is, if I need to do something that's important, I put it on my calendar.
Yes, same here.
And I live and die by my calendar. And if it's not on there, I'm not doing it.
Yep.
And so I'll plan out my Lifebook in the 12 categories of my life. Mm-hmm. And I do that every week. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do on my Sunday sauna sessions.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll just do my Lifebook planning then. And it's 45 minutes of that. Mm-hmm. And then all of those things that I want to get done for those areas, it goes on my calendar.
Yeah.
And so, and then if it's on my calendar, it gets done.
Yep.
And so actually, I'm very conservative with what I put on my calendar.
Just the important stuff.
It's the important stuff, because if I put something on there, the commitment that I've made to myself is that it's going to happen. 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Same.
So, and that helps build self-confidence.
Yeah.
For me, because I have faith in myself.
Right. And sometimes I will find myself sliding that thing to a later point because some emergency came up and I can't actually do it at that time. But I don't take it off. The day. So if I keep having to slide it because lots of emergencies and fires pop up that I have to put out, it still stays on there. And there's a certain point where I have to go to bed, right? Then I know I have to do it, and I'll do it before I go to bed.
Yeah,
it still gets done.
Yeah, same thing for me. Even I've had sometimes where I will have something on there that I've committed to myself to get done, and it has taken me a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've realized is that the commitment to myself, to me, is way more important than sleep. So sleep is always my number one thing, broadly speaking. But to me, what's more important than that is my relationship with myself.
I love it.
And so it kind of, there's this hierarchy where it's like this relationship with myself, which do I think that I'm a good person? Am I the person that I'm going to be? Do I keep the commitments that I make to myself? Those are always like number one, because if you think about like these commitments, oftentimes I've found myself in these situations where I like have this way different standard for the commitments that I make to other people, the commitments that I make to me. It's like, oh, I told PJ that I would do it. I told PJ that I have it done by tonight. That thing's getting done. Like if I tell somebody that something's getting done, it's getting done.
Yeah.
100% of the time. But then I'd be like, I had this different standard for myself where I tell myself that I'm going to get something done by that day.
Yep.
And then, but I'd have this ability to say, actually, you know what, we can do that tomorrow. With the relationship with the most important person, which is myself.
Yes, exactly. I love
because if I can't have a good relationship with myself, I'm not going to be able to have a good relationship with any other person.
Yep. Bingo.
Because if I can't have, you break that commitment to yourself, you break your own self-confidence. Yep. And if you don't have good self-confidence, you're not going to have good relationships with other people.
You're right. And it spills out into other aspects of the same thing. If you don't love yourself, you can't love other people.
Exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's why that's become like one of the most important things to me. And I will sometimes sacrifice sleep in order to maintain those commitments that I've made to myself.
Love it.
But then the other way, the other thing that I've learned is just during those weekly planning sessions.
Yeah.
I intentionally try to undercommit, not because I don't want to get a lot done, but because I know that I have this this bias, this cognitive bias where I think I can get 3 times as much done than I actually can.
Yeah. Right.
So,
and what you're describing is really cool to hear your perspective on that and your own personal experience, because everyone's different. And
exactly.
And for me, it's there's the one thing that's really important for me, and that's memorization of Bible verses. So I just work on that every day. That's the thing I never miss out. Some on the other side of the spectrum, in Sedona, Arizona, it's going to be rubbing their crystals, and that's their number one thing that they're going to do, and everybody has their number one thing that's got, and it's really important to stick to that and to have that commitment to yourself, which is really what it boils down to, is what you mentioned, is that's the important part, is the commitment to yourself, because then you can commit to other people.
Exactly right. Yeah. That's like my one thing. It's pretty funny. I have this rock in my office. It was given to me by one of my coaches. Mm-hmm. And she was just amazing, but she hand painted this rock. And the rock was meant to be this symbol for this one thing that's going to be important to you.
Yeah.
And so I always have it in my view in my office.
Love it.
But what I've discovered, just for me personally, is that one thing: commitment to myself, that I can believe myself when I say that I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
Because if I believe myself that I will commit to doing something, then when you have those voices in your mind about, hey, should I do this? Should I do that? And that's going on a lot for all of us. But when you get to that point, when you're making that selection of what are the things that I'm going to do, if you can go into that actually believing that you're going to, I'm going to do this, and you know that you're going to do it, man, that's the most empowering thing in the world.
Yeah, it is.
Where it's like, you could do anything. If you could do that one thing, I think that you could do anything.
Yep.
Which is, for example, if you just take weight loss. Okay, I'm gonna lose 15 pounds. I think at that point in time, some people they'll get this voice in their head, which is, well, do you really want to commit to doing that because you failed so many times before?
Yeah.
And you haven't done it, and then during that selection criteria, they're so down on themselves that they'd be like, well, it's not even worth what we're doing.
Exactly.
Because they've got this voice in the back of their head, like, I've tried it 100 times and I've failed 100 times.
Yep.
Whereas, for me, if you have a slightly different mindset, which is, I'm not committing to losing weight, but what I'm committing to is engineering a plan that I don't have to think about, and I'm going to commit to forming these new habits.
Yeah.
And then, so you can go engineer this plan, and you can say, actually, well, how many calories would I eat on a nightly basis if I would just eat whatever I want? Okay, well, I'm going to commit to tracking that for a week.
Yep.
Okay, how many calories would I eat in a green smoothie at lunch? Okay, well, I can commit to go Googling that. It's going to take me less than 5 minutes. And so, okay, I'm not committed to like losing weight at all. What I'm going to commit to is like finding a way that is going to be really easy for me to stick to these things. And so you can commit to like figuring that out for a week. And then for me, that was figuring out, oh my gosh, if I made these 2 changes, then losing weight would be easy. I wouldn't have to think about it. And then it was, okay, well, can I commit to doing this every week? Yes. Okay, is it on my calendar? Yes. I can open up my calendar, and there's every day it's make green smoothie. That's in my calendar. And then every day there's a reminder in my calendar to fast until noon, and then I track it. And then you get that done, and then you lose that weight. And then all of a sudden, it's just like when somebody else commits to doing something and then they do it. Like if you can do that to yourself, then you make that goal and you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love myself because I did the thing that I said that I was going to do for myself.
Yep. And then you just developed your own tool to do other things easily too. It's kind of like when Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, everyone else's minds opened up, and then a 15, 30, 20, whatever it is, people broke it the next year.
That's right. Yeah.
We can do that on a micro level
1954, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And so he, 4-minute mile, he got it in, I think it was 6 seconds under, wasn't it? It was like 3:54.
Something like that.
If I recall correctly. It was pretty close. It was just under. Yeah. And then all of a sudden everyone said, oh my God, you can do that.
Yep. And
yeah, like you said, it was like 13 people.
And what you just described was the same thing within a person on a personal level, because those people who are saying, oh, well, I've failed 100 times, I can't handle another one. I want to make it 101, so why even try? But if they do, like you say, make it easy, and then they succeed, boom, all of a sudden those 100 failures disappear. And now they're Roger Bannister and those other people, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I can do that same thing with other things in my life.
Exactly right. And that goes back to, that's why I think it's so important, or one of the things that worked really well for that Come Out Stronger is just focus on these small wins.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the thing that is going to build your self-confidence. And then once you build the self-confidence, then it's Bannister, and you can start taking on bigger things. You get the flywheel going.
Yep.
You know, that flywheel starts spinning, and then it, but that hardest part is just getting that first turn, that first rotation of the flywheel.
Yep.
And then once you get that going, then it's just building the momentum.
Yep. It reminds me of the book Mini Habits.
Oh, I'll have to read that.
It's all about that. Yeah, just for you, it would just be review, but you know, it's a great book. And it also reminds me of I'm actually building a habit course right now that people are going to be able to do online that has a lot of these principles just to make it easy.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Well, if you need a guinea pig,
yeah,
I'm in.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing most of the things already, because once again, we have independently discovered the same solutions and hacks. But yeah, that's great. For sure. Yeah, I'll run you through it. I'll send you to it. It'll be super easy for you because it'll just basically be review. You'll probably laugh at a lot of the stuff that you're already doing, but yeah.
I don't think so. I think that there's one thing that I've learned in my life, and that's that I don't know everything, and there's always an opportunity to learn something that you didn't know.
Yeah.
But you can only do that if you have the mindset that there might be something that I don't know in here. Mm-hmm. Because I think that if you go in with a viewpoint that you've got everything mastered, you're not going to get anything out of it because your mind's going to be closed.
Exactly. You're not open to learning anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that I would get a lot out of it because there's something in there, I'm sure, that I have not, that's going to be new to me.
Mm-hmm. And that reminds me of my dad, who that's his philosophy in life. When he's at a party, he can talk to anyone that he's met for the first time. Actually, Bev is even more like this. She loves meeting strangers, and she's so excited. There's this big, huge dopamine hit that she gets when she meets a new person because that person is going to be fascinating. She doesn't know why yet, but pretty soon she's going to discover something that's going to blow her away and be so fascinating about that person that it's just going to be a blast to uncover that nugget and that gem and that pearl that she hasn't found yet. And this is why people like her so much, and why by the end of within 10 minutes of meeting somebody, they invariably say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've told you all this stuff. I never tell anybody stuff like this. And this is 10 minutes after meeting her. It's because she's so genuinely fascinated and just sitting on the edge of her seat, waiting. It's just every word that comes out of their mouth because her dopamine is just going nuts because she knows there's something's going to come out that's going to be amazing, and the other person picks up on that, and so they encourages them to just keep talking and talking and disclosing, and which is therapy for them. She'd be a great therapist if she ever wanted to be, or a private detective, but this is why people just love talking to her and why she loves talking to them, because of that ultimate fascination.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I bet that's hackable.
I'm sure. Part of it is innate, but a lot of it's learned. So I don't think anybody could ever get as good as her. I'm sure there's probably someone on the planet who already is, but I haven't met him.
Sure.
But if
you take some introvert like me,
yeah,
wearing a NASA shirt, going to a party, I'm in my corner with my calculator.
Same.
And if somebody like wants to come talk to me, I'll be like, pull up my cloak and run. That could probably help me.
Yes, for introverts like us, it's totally hackable, and we can always get better at it, and we can even continue for the rest of our lives to get better at it. But for her, a lot of it, she was just born with, just her brain was wired that way coming out of the womb. But then her mom taught her a lot of it too, so she refined it along the way and then just fed it all her life because of her initial wiring and her mom fertilizing. And
you bring up this like really interesting idea in my mind. So I wonder if you could combine this.
Yeah.
So do you know what's so funny is, so one of the things in a Lifebook is social life.
Mm-hmm.
Social life is like my Achilles heel of living a 12 category life. And it's not because I don't like humans.
Yeah.
I love people.
Right.
But I'm also an introvert.
Sure.
And so, or I guess probably like realistically ambivert that leans introvert.
Mm-hmm.
But if you imagine having that skill combined with a CRM.
Oh yeah.
And then your micro habit.
Yeah.
Would be, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to go through my CRM of all the people that I've met ever. Mm-hmm. And so, like, Bev's at a party. In 5 minutes, she's heard it. They're like all this person's life secrets.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh wow, Bev, it's great to meet you.
Yeah.
Come on into my skeleton closet. Let me show you around."
Yeah. Exactly.
So if you combine that skill with like a CRM.
Oh my gosh, dude!
And then you're like writing all of this stuff down about the people that you met, all the things that you want to, and then there's always something that you want to follow up with them about. But imagine if like I developed, I got my CRM, and in my sauna, I reach out to 5 people.
Yeah.
Hey PJ, it's been a few months that we met, and I just want to see how you're doing, and I hope that whatever we talked about is going great.
Dude, get out of my head. Bev and I have had this conversation because she's outside sales. And so that would be a goldmine for her to be able to. And we've talked so much about CRMs. And she goes, I know. I just can't do it. And she's right. She's just not her wiring to be able to input that stuff. That stuff drives her nuts. It's too tedious and it's not her brain type. So, and by the way, you've taken my brain type test, right?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I got to send it to you. Okay. So anyways, I've told her, you got to do a CRM, She goes, I can't do it. So I think, and she's right. And I even told her, I go, hire a virtual assistant from India or wherever and just have them do it. So all you have to do is take a picture of the business card, text it to your VA, and just tell them something about the person, and you're done with it. She can't even do that. So I think what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to be her VA. I'm going to be the middleman. So I'm just going to tell her, I want to handle everything for you. I'm going to communicate with your VA. I'm going to make sure they're populating your CRM, and all you have to do is just text me the picture of the card. That's it. You don't even have to tell me anything about him because I know you're going to remember. And then when we're together later, I'll ask you about it, and then I'll send it to the VA. I think that's going to have to be the system. Just like what we were saying earlier is the minimal possible effort, and that would be it. That would be the minimal possible effort, because that's even easier than her just taking a picture and then trying to remember to bring it up and talk to me about it. If she could text it to me, then I'll remember. Then she puts everything on my plate, which isn't much, because all I'm doing is sending it to the VA as soon as I hear her little tidbit. And then the VA is putting it in and doing all the tedious stuff that I also hate. And then that CRM is going to do the work of reminding her to do what you just said, to contact that person and say, hey, how's it going with such and such? Then that person is going to feel significant, which is a human need, one of the basic human needs, and they're going to feel important. And that's huge for somebody who's in outside sales. Got to have that. But thanks for bringing that up, because I just formulated the answer for that problem that Bev and I have been talking about for years now. It's been years.
You've inspired me. I think that's going to be part of my morning routine.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy thing to add.
It's really easy. It doesn't have to be much. I feel like oftentimes in certain things, people are going to tell you certain things about themselves. Oftentimes those are time bound.
Yes.
Like, I'm, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to nerd out and deconstruct this, but
you probably will.
I feel like you have these like time-bound things and then non-time bound things. But for time-bound things, like I'm talking to you, you're taking a trip to Tahiti. Mm-hmm. Obviously that's not happening right now due to the state of the world, but you're taking a trip to Tahiti. Mm-hmm. Oh, no way. When are you going? It's in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Cool. So go input that, and then are there any time-bound things in there? Yeah. Like enter those in. Yeah. Because if there are time-bound things, trip to Tahiti, in 2 weeks, why don't you follow up with them in 3 weeks? Right. Hey, it was great to meet you at the party, whatever. How was your trip to Tahiti? Hope you had a great time.
Bingo.
God, can you imagine that? You could nurture so many friendships if you had that.
Wow.
Oh, can I tell? Speaking of friendships, there's another thing that I did.
Yeah.
Speaking of garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Okay, so Facebook has become my new best friend.
Yeah.
I love Facebook. I went from this awful relationship with Facebook where I'm like, I need to freaking delete Facebook. This is not adding anything to my life. Yeah. To Facebook being one of my sources of inspiration. Yeah. And so, have you ever heard this saying, you're the sum of your 5 friends?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I think that I actually believe that a lot.
I do too.
But I think that we also have an opportunity to almost kind of develop these virtual personas of who those 5 friends are, and then find digital communities that are going to embody that persona. Yeah. And so what I've done on Facebook is I have unfollowed the people that in my feed that bring negative things. Yeah. They're still my friends. I still like them as people. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that I'm not going to be friends with them or anything like that. Yeah. But what I realized is that if I remove people who are negative, because I don't want to be around those people. Those aren't my 5 friends. Yeah. The people that I want to surround myself with are going to be people who are going to push me and encourage me to think about things differently, or to improve my life, or to start a new project, or be better in some way. I want to be more like them in some way. Yep. And so what I've noticed is there's so many positive groups of amazing people on Facebook. And if you can find these groups, then all of a sudden you've tapped into this huge network of people who are going to act like that 5 friend. Wow, yeah. And so I found all of these entrepreneur groups on Facebook. just like really positive people, and I see what they're doing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I not doing that?
Yeah.
So this can be a negative thing on social media, or you can hack it to be this really positive thing.
Yep.
So I think a lot of times, the quintessential story of like the person in their 20s who sees somebody else with something that they don't have that they want, and then they get jealous and then try to like fake that themselves.
Yep.
Sends them in this very negative feedback loop.
Yep.
But you can do the same thing with positive people.
Yep.
So, if you want to lose weight, as an example, go find like a really cool group of people on Facebook that have like a weight loss group. Join it.
Yeah.
And see their progress reports.
Yeah.
And interact with them and make new friends. It's amazing. It's like we've never lived in a better time to connect with people and surround ourselves with like-minded people. Because you can find those people, and within those groups, you can make new friends and people that you can connect with and reach out personally with.
Totally.
Who are the people who are always posting like really cool stuff that inspires you?
Yeah.
And reach out to them and ask if they want to like chat.
I love it. That's a great idea, because too many people do the opposite. They surf the everybody in their feed. Most of those people have fake lives, and they're putting their fake lives out there, and so then you're feeling inadequate and that you suck, and then you stage something yourself to put your own fake life out there, which makes you even more unhappy. But what you're doing is the opposite. You're looking for people, uplifting people that aren't trying to compete with their fake lives. They're actually trying to make something better of themselves in a real, genuine way that's not fake. And you can tell. You can tell when somebody's fake or not, just because of how they talk and their pictures, and they're real.
They're real. Yeah. But they're out there. If you think about Facebook as a platform that's going to help you connect with those 5 people and be a source of inspiration for like personal growth.
Yeah.
It can be like a fantastic tool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Like I look forward to like opening Facebook now, because all the groups that I've joined have these people in it where I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Like what you're doing is next level. And it's so inspiring to me, but it's also making me realize that if you're doing this, I can do this.
Exactly.
If you got out there and ran, and I'm just using this as an analogy. I'm not on any running groups, but if you got up at 5 a.m. this morning and put on your shoes and you ran for 2 hours in the rain, you know what I can do? Get in the sauna.
Right. I love it.
I could do the easy thing.
Exactly.
Walk 10 feet to my garage and get that done.
Exactly.
So that's been like one of my most recent hacks.
That's great. Good idea. Because a lot of people just either have a really negative view on Facebook, and it's just because how they're looking at it. It's their perspective and how they're using it. That's why they have a negative outlook on it.
Yeah, of course. And if you follow someone on Facebook that's one of your friends, and the only thing that they're posting is doom and gloom, it's like somebody bringing a bag of trash into your house.
Yep, that's right.
And like all garbage in, garbage out, and it doesn't matter. I feel like even if it's like a little bit, it's going to have an effect.
That's right.
And you're a very resilient person, so you're going to be impacted, kind of like your virus story. You're going to be like a lot less impacted than somebody else, but I think for most people,
it's still an impact.
Yeah, it's still an impact, and to the degree that you can identify, at least the people who are consistently doing it and just kind of following them, you're one of the easiest things that you can do to improve your life in 2 minutes.
Yep.
Open up Facebook. You don't have to delete it. Go find all of the people that scroll through your feed for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you see some crazy conspiracy theory posted or something else or anything in all caps, unfollow.
Anything in all caps. Yeah, because it's either going to be crazy or they're yelling at you, and you don't want either one.
Either one. That's like the highest signal. Like, don't even look any further. You don't even have to read it. Just like unfollow. Oh, and the other thing too is I think like once you connect with these positive people, add them as friends.
Totally.
And then your friend feed becomes awesome.
That's right.
Completely awesome. And then another thing too is like the power of Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter is like also like super powerful from that perspective, but you have to really spend some time tuning in.
You become who you surround yourself with. That's the bottom line.
Exactly right.
We're relational beings, and we have to connect, and the connection will shape us.
That's right.
I was just thinking a while back with the CRM, stuff like that. I've met one person in my life who's able to do that without any help or assistance that I know of.
Amazing.
I think that he's just a savant in his brain. He's able to do it that way. Do you remember he was Attorney General for a while, Rob McKenna, and he also ran for governor. Yeah. He's like that. I remember I met him about 10 years ago. Bev and I met him together. And so we talked for like 2 minutes. And then 3 years later, I saw him again at some other thing. And as soon as he saw Bev was with me, he goes, "Hey, PJ and Bev." And I almost fell backwards because he's this famous guy. B, he said our names. Then he said, "Hey, how's it going with such and such?" I didn't even remember I told him about that. And
Amazing.
I stood there I couldn't even answer him because I was going like this.
You just made me realize something. Because I think that anyone has the capability of doing that.
I do too. The mind is that powerful and unlimited, yes.
Yeah, I believe that anybody could learn to do that. But you made me realize something. It's like, what if you went through the Lifebook categories and you assigned, so let me just see the 12 categories. I always forget them and I've got to look them up.
So that brings up something that I've been doing recently is I've been hacking my own memory. And what I do is I put certain things on body parts. So I will put a word or an object on my foot. I'll put another one on my shin, another one on my thigh, another one on my glutes, another one on my hip, another one on my ab, another one on my pec, another one on my shoulder, another one on my nose, forehead, top of the head. And then I can remember all those things. So it used to be I would tell people, and this would be horrible that I would even say this because this is reinforcing it, but I would say, I'm good for remembering 2 things. 3, forget it. Can't, all of them. If you tell me 3 things, then all of them go out the window. And so, of course, that would be my self-fulfilling prophecy, and it kept me that way. But then when I learned this hack and I stopped saying that, now I don't even need to write anything down if I'm going shopping because that's just a quick little memory hack. And that's probably what he's done. I don't know if he's learned to do it or if he hacked it along the way or if he was just born that way and developed it because he is some kind of savant. But it doesn't matter. Your point is we could all do that if we hacked it and the potential is there for anyone. Potential's
there. But it just made me realize something. So that I think that you could learn something like that. But imagine what that would do to your life.
Yes.
And this is not taking advantage of anyone.
No.
This is being a better human.
Exactly. Same thing with the virtual assistant business card thing, CRM.
Exactly. This is all about caring for people and being a better human.
Bingo. Which she already does.
Exactly.
And that's why she's so fascinated with everybody. So it's not something. Some people, nefarious intentions could use this for, ill intent to take advantage of people, but it's not her intention. It's to help people because everything that she ever sells also helps somebody. So it's just a hack on being a better person.
So I have this idea. Yeah. So if you look at the 12 categories of life, and like I was saying, like social life is my Achilles heel.
Was, but now it's getting
Has
better.
has been, yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, remembering everyone's name, remembering something about that, and then reaching out to 5 people and keeping track of that.
Yeah.
I should just do an experiment, and I should start it and just see like what happens if I do that. And so be like, okay, well, how do I remember everyone's name and everything about them? I'm sure I could go find a course that tells me how to do that.
Yeah.
On Udemy right now. And somebody studied that, they figured it out.
Yep.
So I almost wonder, like, what if you went through, but it's the same. Like, I could ask you, PJ, let's say that I had to put together something for my health. What's going to get me 80% of the way there? And something that I could stick to and do every day. You'd be able to tell me.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I was just realizing that for every single one of these things, there's going to be that 80%. So same thing for intellectual life. Same thing for emotional life. Same thing for character. Same thing for spiritual. Same thing for love. Same thing for parenting. Same thing for social life. Same thing for financial life, for strategy, for career. Or I think I said strategy for career, for quality of life, and then for your life vision.
Yeah.
Everybody's figured all of this stuff out.
Yep.
Like we don't need to do any work.
Nope.
But then it's about okay, how do you figure out that 80%, and then how do you break that down into something that you can do every day?
Yeah.
Because so much of this is just about nurturing.
Yep.
And it's like spending the 5 minutes on it daily, and everything's going to be great. I almost wonder if we put together, like, this could just be your guide and my guide for, like, what's the 80% for health? Okay, you could write that down in 5 minutes. What's the 80% of intellectual? Okay, what's the best person for that? Probably, I don't know, Jim Quick comes to mind. I'm sure there are other people. Jim Quick, Tim Ferriss, like any of the meta learners.
Yeah.
So in my mind, the most important thing for probably intellectual would be, how do you learn how to learn?
Yep.
The meta learning.
Yep.
Emotional is probably an interesting one too. I don't know much about that, but could find out. Same thing for character. Spiritual, I think, is an interesting one. Parenting, I'm sure that like parenting's been like dialed and totally figured out.
Yeah.
But there are probably things that if you just do every day as a parent,
yes,
you will be a fantastic parent. I'm probably not doing I'm probably not doing a lot of them that I could be. Same thing for social life. We talked about that. Financial life, I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on. Career, I think there are things that could be done every day that would really boost that. And then a lot of these could be habit stacked, because I think that if you think about like reaching out to 5 people a day, like why don't you make 2 of those people who are in your career, or make 3 of those people who are in your career.
Yep.
Quality of life, same thing. Life vision, same thing.
Yep. And there's some people, a lot of people would consider you an overachiever because they're comparing themselves to you. You don't consider yourself an overachiever, but they're like, they were, I could never do that. Well, then in your case, start with reaching out to 1 person a week.
Exactly.
Because for you, 5 people a day is a tiny habit. It's a small step. It's a mini habit. Someone else, that's not even possible. It's just too much work.
Exactly, yeah. Well, to me, the only reason that it's not a lot of work is because I have a checklist that I follow every morning.
Yeah.
And so I have this time in the sauna that I've dedicated every morning to, this is the time when I'm going to do things like this. So just because I know I have that container, I no longer have to worry about it.
Right.
For life vision, I don't have to worry about that. I have a container. So if I want to add something to it, I'll just go add it to this thing that my checklist for the life vision container.
Yep.
Financial life, I don't have to worry about that because I've automated all of it. I've made all those decisions up front. I don't have to think about a thing. The only thing that I have to think about is when I go and regularly review it.
Yep.
But I think that what you're making me realize is like, I've done this for certain parts. Now I just need to do it for all of it.
Well, yeah, and you were already on that path because of you had the 12 things laid out, and so that was your goal anyways.
Yeah. But I think now it's just like, how do you reverse engineer that into a habit stack?
Right.
So everything becomes unconscious.
Yep.
And then it's easy because you don't have to think about it anymore because you've programmed yourself to do it.
Yep.
It's just what you do. And then also because you've done that, you can take advantage of these cognitive biases.
Yep.
Which would be, well, I don't do that. Well, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't really know. Just because I've never done it.
It's because we don't do things that way.
It's not consistent with the view of who I am. So you can like take advantage of these like cognitive biases.
Yeah.
But then hack them to your advantage.
Yeah.
Dude, we should do that. We should start like this project called the Good Life Project.
Okay.
And then it would be like the premise would be, you can kind of take this health Lifebook framework.
Yeah.
And other people have done this too. This is like not a new concept. I know like Tony Robbins has his own version of it.
Yeah.
But then you think about like what are the simplest things that you could do that would get you 80% of the way there, and then how do you systematize those into these things that are really easy to become habits?
Yep.
That's a very powerful concept.
It is, and gosh, my brain type test could really fit in well with this because everybody's going to have their own way of doing that based on how their brain is wired. Because there's some artists, creative people out there that are going to do it very different from someone else who is a mathematician engineer.
Right. What may be really interesting about that, because I think you're right, because we all need a trigger.
Yeah.
We need a trigger to remind us of the thing that we're going to do. And for me, because I'm like that left brain engineer kind of type, to me, it's a time trigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I'm going to be like, oh, it's 4:01. It's time for me to do X, Y, Z. Why? Because that's the time that I allocated to it.
Yep.
For somebody who's more of an artist type, they'd be like, that sounds awful. Are you effing kidding me? Like having a time trigger, that sounds like the worst. Yeah. And that's not a judgment thing. They're just built differently.
Yeah.
They're never going to work with a time trigger. It's not going to work.
Nope.
And I'm not saying that artists are these people who aren't bound by time. Obviously, I know that's not true. Like Chuck Close, great example of that. But I think that just means that you need a different trigger. What's that trigger going to be?
Right.
And it's all about like going through your daily routine. Is it a location trigger?
Right.
Yeah, well, I could never do that 7:00 thing, heat up the sauna, get in it, because I wake up just whenever.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Like, let's figure something else out.
Bingo.
But it's all hackable. You just have to figure out what's that trigger going to be, and it's probably a time-based trigger, a location-based trigger, or it's either an internal stimulus or an external stimulus.
Yep. It can be, something you see. It can be something you hear. It can be a sense.
Yeah.
Even a smell can be a trigger.
But I think it's probably really important for those people to like figure something out that's going to work.
Yeah.
Because I think systems like this, for engineer types, it's like amazing.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, I just know that if I get in the sauna, I just know that if I do these things, my life's going to be better, and so I'm just going to do it.
And that's one of the because I built my habit course some years ago, and I've just been refining it since. But one of the steps of the habit course is to be your own observational scientist of yourself, where you write down in a very non-judgmental way, write down your patterns, your habits, and your triggers, and to start hacking your triggers. What are they? Let's find out what they are.
Yeah.
And then we'll just use those and try to, instead of trying to come up with triggers that don't work for your brain type, let's use the ones that do.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I wonder if this could be an addendum to your habit hacking class.
Sure.
Where it's like, how do you hack to get a 12 category life?
Right. Is there a way to make it less categories? Maybe to combine some categories and rename them?
Yeah.
Because
obviously simplifying this would be great.
I'm just thinking for some people, there are plenty of people out there who would hear the word 12 and they don't even want to know the categories. That's too much. There's too much.
Yeah. For a lot of people, it's probably you could probably boil it down to like your health, your friends and family.
Yeah.
So like health, social, and money.
Yeah, because 3 actually is a really good number to start with.
Yeah.
And then you can have breakout groups of each one of those. It can be 12
That's
later.
right.
Yeah, but 3 is a good starting point.
Because I think that's probably how people would think about it. Like, I've got my health, I've got my social, and I've got the money to do the things that I want.
Yeah.
And then everything else could be like a subcategory of that. Or maybe people would automatically categorize these things because they'd be like, well, my friends and family, what am I doing as a parent?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Want to do a weekly call on it?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Let me know what time works for you.
Yeah.
I think it'd be so cool to figure out how to hack this.
Let's decide what's our homework to do before next week. What's our first hack? What would be a good starting point?
So I think for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down. I'm basically going to do a categorization.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through my 12 categories, and I'm going to figure out where am I strong, or where do I have a pretty good system in place right now, and I'm executing on it consistently, and where's the other one where it's just like no clue, or and maybe like a third one, it could be like, that's not really important to me.
Yeah.
I don't really get excited about that one.
Yeah.
So I think categorizing those things and then
maybe ranking them first.
Ranking them and then saying, okay, well, here are the ones that are more important to me now, where I don't have a plan.
Right.
And then I think identifying who do we believe is like the expert in the space?
Yeah.
One or two experts in the space.
Yeah.
And then I think finding that.
I love it.
So for me, what I think it's going to be about, I'm going to focus on social life. I already know who I'm going to go look, which is Dale Carnegie.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that? How to Win Friends and Influence People, right?
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Of course. It's stood the test of time.
Oh, my gosh. One of the best books of all time.
Right. So I'm going to reread that, but I'm going to read it through the lens of how do I basically go through and hack the shit out of it?
Yep.
How do I science the shit out of that?
Totally.
I love it. I think that's going to be my homework. Is I'm going to come up with a list, but I know the one thing I'm going to focus on: social life. Who's expert? Dale Carnegie. What's the book? How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm going to read that and be like, I'm going to come back with a plan of how I'm going to science the shit out of How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
In 5 minutes a day.
Yeah. I'll do all that too. And then if you could send me the list of 12.
Yeah.
And then I would love for us both to come up independently, boil down to three things. So, because it would be interesting to see what we come up with independently. Boil down those 12 down to 3, but then reverse engineer, of course, all the way down. So it's a flow chart from 12 down to 3, so we can see the branches.
Okay, I think I might just rearrange the ones that are here. I'm going to take a look at Tony Robbins, but yeah. I think that actually quality of life, for me, is one of the most important ones. And that was actually pretty surprising to me, because I think that when you say quality of life, you think material things or money things. But to me, I think so much of that is making the most of what you have.
Bingo.
And so that was like a really big surprise to me.
Yeah, because if you're not happy with what you have, you'll never have enough.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm putting time in my calendar right now, and I'm going to work on this. Okay, should we find a time to talk?
Yeah.
Let's do Friday eves. How about 4 to 5 on Fridays, or 5 to 6 or whatever?
Yeah. I just sent out not too long ago on Instagram, says gratitude is easy when we are aware of this fact. If you have food in your fridge, clothes on your back, a roof over your head, and a place to sleep, you are wealthier than 75% of the world's population. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, man.
That's stuff we take for granted.
There's so much. I mean,
oh my God.
I think that even if you just said like you have running water,
yeah,
that eliminates a tremendous number of people. You have a toilet.
Yep.
Do you know how many people in the world don't have a toilet?
Yep. Crazy.
Like they literally have no toilet. They don't even have access to a group toilet.
Right.
So fortunate.
Yeah.
Science the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's one of my favorite movie lines ever.
What is? What movie?
It's from The Martian. And so what I loved about it is it's like he's stuck on another planet by himself. Like if you just think about that happening in real life, the odds are impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But then, he's a scientist, and he's like, if I'm going to survive, if I'm going to make it back to Earth, I'm going to have to find a way to science the shit out of it. So basically, figuring out this way, like you can take this impossible thing in life,
mm-hmm.
and you can break it down into small little steps,
mm-hmm.
which is going to get you to the way that you're going to get there. And so the way that he did it was he's like, okay, how much food do I have? How many calories would I need to consume each day?
Yeah.
In order to be able to survive this long.
Yeah.
And so he thinks back from the back, and then he just basically puts together this plan for all of these little things that you have to do
mm-hmm.
To be able to do it. But he also gives himself this mission, like this purpose in life.
Yeah.
So he has this really strong purpose in this daily routine, which is going to be going and doing all of this stuff every single day and tracking it, because he writes down every soul. He writes down. He makes another hash mark for every day that's passed, and he takes inventory of all of the food that he has,
mm-hmm.
and he has all of his little project plans. And so no longer is he this helpless person stuck on a planet with no hope of escaping.
Right.
He's the guy who's like, oh, actually what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go work on my farm
that
I repurposed out of Martian soil and these extra potatoes that were laying around. And, okay, well, now I need to go figure out how to get water.
Yep.
Okay, well, what do I have? I've got, like, hydrogen. Okay, can I burn that
mm-hmm.
and produce water?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, like, one of my favorite phrases in the world because of, like, what it represents.
Right.
Science the shit out of it.
I love it. That's what biohacking is too.
I think I might get a big neon light in my office that every day I look up and it says science the shit out of it. Maybe it should go behind me.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh, man.
This
was great chatting with you.
Yeah, this is super fun. Good to catch up, too.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Looking forward to next Friday.
Yeah, me too. And we read Dale Carnegie. Can't wait.
Yep. It's great.
All right, brother.
Okay,
Talk to you
brother.
later.
Yeah, thanks.
And that's all I have to say about that.